at MadRiverGlen.com/employment.
Marvin windows are designed for unprecedented performance and exceptional aesthetics. Marvin's expansive window portfolio has every style you can imagine, all of them crafted with the highest quality material and the ability to mix and match across product lines that allows you to achieve the right form and function for your residential, commercial, and replacement needs. See our Marvin specialist at Sticks and Stuff and Swanton Lumber in Middlesex, St. Albans, Enosburg, Swanton, and Derby, or online at sticksandstuff.com.
The Brady Farkas Show is produced and funded by WDEV and the Radio Vermont Group. We welcome listener feedback. Email your comments to WDEV@radiovermont.com.
The energy. The guy told me I was no spring chicken anymore, and that's why my ankle was still hurting. I'm 33, not 133. The passion. The Red Sox handling of Xander Bogaerts is a complete organizational failure. The opinions on all your favorite teams. No, not this year, but it's next year where Bill Belichick ends up on the hot seat. This is the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com. What's up, everybody? Brady Farkas Show back at it on a Thursday right here on WDEV AM and FM and WDEVradio.com. We're up till 6:40 tonight, and it is high school basketball, girls hoops between Harwood and Spalding. Brent Curtis will be on the call. We're going to talk with ESPN's MLB insider Buster Olney at 5:45. We'll talk about the Red Sox and where they are going. We'll talk about the Rutland High School mascot resolution as well. I have some thoughts on that. You can get in on the Napa Morrisville, Napa Waterbury text line at 802-585-3026. Your locally owned Napa stores in Waterbury and Morrisville. You can also check us out video streaming wise, Facebook Live, YouTube Live, and my Twitter account as well. Let's waste no time and let go.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
And here we go. The opening thoughts on the Brady Farkas Show are brought to you by Sticks and Stuff and by Swanton Lumber. They are Vermont's most complete locally owned home center with locations in Enosburg, Derby, Middlesex, St. Albans, and at Swanton Lumber. They're online at sticksandstuff.com. I want to put out this public service announcement to start the show. As the Patriots enter the offseason, I do not want to read any stories about where the Patriots are going with Mac Jones. I'm making that known right now. I saw an article today on WEEI.com that it was titled something to the effect of why the Patriots may stick with Mac Jones. I don't want to read stories like that this offseason. And after today, I don't want to address stories like that this offseason because I'm going to tell you now, right now, January 12th, for lack of a better word, the Patriots are basically stuck with Mac Jones. That sounds a little harsher than I intend it to, but basically the Pats are stuck. There are not many moves at all on the chessboard for the Patriots at the quarterback position. Outside of trading Mac and taking a quarterback in the draft at number 14, and I will have that conversation. Outside of that, there isn't any other conversation about Mac Jones to have because there aren't any other moves to make. The only move I will talk about all offseason is if the Pats want to trade Mac and if they want to draft a quarterback. That's it. Because let's have a little tell the truth Thursday here. Mac Jones is not awful, but Mac Jones also is not great. But you know what Mac Jones is for sure, definitively? He is cheap. In 2023, Mac Jones is going to make $2 million. Do you believe that any of the other quarterbacks who will be available and will be significantly more expensive than Mac are that much better than Mac? Because I don't. There aren't moves to make here. Look, I watched every Seahawks game this season. Is Geno Smith better than Mac Jones? Yes, absolutely. Geno Smith is going to make between $25 and $30 million in 2023. Mac Jones is making $2. Is Geno really 23 to 28 million better than Mac? The answer is no. So therefore, getting Geno is not worth it to the Patriots. Sticking with Mac is the proper value play. He's not $25 million worse than Geno Smith, and it's like that for almost every other quarterback that would be available. Derek Carr, is he $30 million better than Mac? The answer is no. So therefore, I'm not trying to upgrade to Derek Carr. He is better. He's not $30 million better. Jimmy Garoppolo will be available, I'm sure, around 15 to 20 million. Is he 13 to 18 million dollars better than Mac? I don't think so either. So your chances of upgrading from Mac really are extremely limited. So because of that, I don't want to read stories about the Patriots going after other quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson is the pie in the sky. If he hits free agency, then all bets are off. But until I actually see him hit free agency, I'm not even going to concern myself with that either. I'd sign Lamar in a heartbeat, but I don't think the Pats are going to have any chance at getting him. So yes, the Patriots essentially are stuck with Mac Jones. The only move on the table, the only move you should even think about is, do you want to draft a quarterback at 14? That's it. That's the only move to think about. They're not going after Derek Carr. They're not going after Jimmy Garoppolo. They're not going after Geno Smith. I don't think they're going after Tom Brady. I don't think they're going after any of those quarterbacks, because all those quarterbacks that will make way more than $2 million are not that much better than Mac. The only move on the table is drafting another quarterback and resetting your quarterback clock and your rookie contract clock to 5 years. That's it. But guess what? You're picking at 14. You got Mac at 15. You're in the exact same spot for the most part to go and just get the fourth or fifth best quarterback in this year's class. Do I really want that again? So I don't even know. Well, I'll have the conversation. I don't even know that I want to even consider that. If I'm not picking a top 2 quarterback in this draft, do I really want to pick one like I did with Mac, where I'm getting the fourth or fifth best? Probably not. At that rate, I'd probably go with my more experienced guy, which means, as I said at the start, I'm largely stuck with Mac. That's it. That is it. All right. Look, and then, by the way, there's this one. Even if you decide you want to take a quarterback, you're going to have to trade Mac. And is there going to be a big trade market for Mac? I mean, seriously. Is there going to be a big trade market for Mac Jones? If you decide I want to move on and take a new one in the draft, how do you know you can unload Mac? Because I don't know that you can. Houston needs a quarterback. They have the number 2 pick in the draft. Guess what? They don't need Mac Jones. They're taking their own guy. Indy needs a quarterback. They're at number 4. They're taking their own guy. Vegas needs a quarterback, but they're not moving on from Derek Carr to go get a slightly worse version of Derek Carr. They're not. Josh McDaniels is going after Tom Brady. He's not putting his coaching future, his last shot on the line for Mac Jones. He's not doing it. I don't think Pete Carroll at 70-plus years old, who just had Geno Smith, I don't think that he's putting his last years in the career on Mac Jones. So I don't think that even if the Pats want to move on, I don't think there's a lot of teams that are going to be beating down the door for Mac's services. Freddie Coleman of ESPN Radio, I asked him that question yesterday, and he agrees. There's not a huge market for Mac on the trade market.
So no one's making any inquiries, and it's not so much because of the fact that they don't believe that Mac Jones can help their team. They believe in the people that they have, or they believe they can go out and get somebody else better than somebody who's still trying to figure it out in New England.
Exactly. If I'm playing quarterback carousel this year, I'm looking at who? Derek Carr. I'm looking at Geno Smith. I'm looking at, if I'm a contender looking at quarterback carousel, I'm looking at Aaron Rodgers. If I want to go trade for a draft, I'm going calling the Bears on Justin Fields and saying, hey, you take a quarterback at 1, we'll take Justin Fields. I'd rather have Ryan Tannehill if the Titans want to move on. There's a lot of people ahead of Mac Jones on the quarterback carousel. That's it. I don't want to hear a conversation about how can the Patriots update the quarterback position. They can't. Unless they want to draft one, they can't. And even that, I don't know if it would be an upgrade. That's the only conversation I'm willing to have. The conversation should not be about upgrading from Mac Jones. The conversation should be about how can we put better talent around Mac Jones. That should be the conversation. Okay? Kirk Cousins, I don't think is great. He's got immense talent around him. How do we get that? Jimmy Garoppolo and Brock Purdy are not great. They've got immense talent around them. How do we get that? Geno Smith has warts. He's got really good, at least offensive talent around him. How do we get that? That's what the conversation should be about. The Patriots conversation this offseason should not be about moving on from Mac or upgrading from Mac. It should be about helping Mac. How do we turn pick 14 into a franchise left tackle? How do we turn pick 14 into a game-changing wide receiver? How do we spend money properly on the free agent market to go and get Mac another wideout and another offensive lineman? And how do we get a great DB so our defense can remain good next year? That's it. That's where the conversation should go. I don't want to read. The Patriots might stick with Mac Jones. Of course they're going to stick with Mac Jones. There are no other moves on the table. And you should realize that. I'm telling you, January 12th. I don't care if it's January 12th, February 12th, March 12th, May 12th, or July 12th. I'm going to feel the exact same way. Unless you can get Lamar Jackson, there are no other easy upgrades to make. And you should be focusing on getting the team better around Mac, because that is where things were really bad this year. The coaching situation was bad around Mac, and the talent wasn't great around Mac. Get it better. And you look, the Seahawks are 9-8. They're not much better than the Patriots. They made the playoffs. Why? Good stuff around Geno Smith. Good offensive play caller, relative talent, invested in the draft, hitting the draft. They made the playoffs. Even in the AFC, you look at the Dolphins, who went through the ringer. They made the playoffs. Do you think that Tua is that much better than Mac? Probably not. But they gave him an advantageous situation. And when he played, the Dolphins generally played pretty well in that system. Texter says on the Morrisville, Napa, Waterbury text line, 802-585-3026, CJ in Burlington. Welcome to quarterback hell, Patriots fans. You're not good enough to get anywhere near a title, but not bad enough to tank for the next guy. Have fun. Yeah. CJ, this is how most of the NFL lives. You have to find a way to augment the roster around the quarterback. Kirk Cousins, I don't believe he's great. Jared Goff, I don't believe he's great. Geno Smith, I don't believe is great. But when these guys have help, they can and do look pretty good. And in special circumstances, Jared Goff gets to the Super Bowl. Matt Ryan gets to the Super Bowl. The Patriots have to find a way to fill out the roster appropriately around Mac Jones. Alex over in Moncton says, you can't evaluate Mac behind the trash offensive line and the dumpster fire play callers. The Pats offensive line needs all the focus. That's fair too. I've been saying that for months also. You can't properly evaluate Mac Jones, and that's the problem. I'll never forget Eric Eager of Pro Football Focus came on the show in 2020. We were talking about Josh Allen. This was 2020 when Josh Allen was getting really good, but he wasn't MVP Josh Allen yet. He said, look, the Bills have done this right. The Bills have done enough around Josh Allen to get answers. They surrounded him with Devin Singletary. They surrounded him with Stephon Diggs. At that time, also Cole Beasley was there and kind of, still more in his prime. They surrounded him with a good defense. They had Brian Dable calling plays. So, they have done everything for Josh Allen that they're going to know. If he's great, he's going to run with this. And if he stinks, then we just know that he stinks because everything else is good. Look at the Jets. The Jets know on Zach Wilson, don't they? For the most part, look, they gave him some top-flight wide receiver talent. Garrett Wilson's great. They signed Corey Davis. They have a very good defense. The Jets, they did a lot for Zach Wilson, and Zach Wilson was bad. They know, they have a very good idea what Zach Wilson is. We don't have that same idea about Mac Jones. We just don't. So that's why I'm saying the focus this offseason should not be on replacing him, because you largely can't. The focus should be on helping him so you can get the answer on him. You've got to get the answer on him. Mac Jones I do not believe that Mac Jones is a guy I ever want to pay $40 million to. I've said that from the start. I believe it today. But that said, over the 3 years that you still have Mac Jones at an affordable rate, you could do some pretty good things if you gave him help around him. And then you don't want to pay him $40 million, then you let him go after year 5. But we still got year 3, 4, and 5 to play with here. And in those years, I'd like to be good. The way to get good is to get some talent around him. It's the Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Let's move over to baseball. Buster Olney, our ESPN MLB insider, is calling in.
All the insight into everything going on in baseball. It's time for our weekly conversation with ESPN Baseball insider and Vermont native, Buster Olney.
I'm just about ready to bet the family farm in Vermont.
On the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
That's right. Every single Thursday at this time, ESPN MLB insider Buster Olney with us, and lots to talk about with Buster. So, Buster, thank you for being with us. How are you on this Thursday?
Having a better week than the Red Sox are, that's for sure.
Well, look, there was some good with the Red Sox this week. Do you want to start with the good news, or do you want to start with the bad? I'll let you pick.
Now, let's start with the good news before we delve off in the other direction.
All right. The good news is that the team had a press conference yesterday to kind of announce Rafael Devers' extension to 10-year, $313.5 million extension that will keep him here for more than a decade. So that is pretty good news, Buster.
It is good news, and it's, something that you and I have talked about for months and months and months. It's, they needed to I think ownership needed to demonstrate that they're willing to spend money and to keep some of these homegrown players. Now, it's been interesting since the deal went down to hear the response of folks with other teams who have enormous respect for Devers as a hitter. The great hands that he has, the production that he has. But they have a lot of questions about, as he gets older and that he goes through that contract, where is he going to play? I remember talking to you as Devers began his career about the perception that, he was not, going to be a good third baseman. He turned out to be better than what people thought. But the question I think for other folks have is when he gets to be 28 or 29 and, will his play at third base hold up? Will he have to change positions, especially at a time when they have these regulations against defensive shifts? And it might be that, that infielders are going to be required to be effective to have more range and to be better at that, and then if you move him to first base, eventually, is he really suited for that? He's not especially tall. And, is that diminishing an asset in a sense, putting him at first base versus third base where you get great value based on how much they paid him.
Buster, it was interesting. Another outlet had a story on Devers' kind of recruitment, for lack of a better word here, with the Red Sox into getting a long-term deal done. He said that he didn't want to hit free agency, that he did not want to go through that. You've talked with a number of players over the years. Why do some guys not want to go through the process, especially when it seems like it would be very, very fruitful if they did?
I just think that, there's so many players who are built differently. You and I talked about the possibility that, if you're his agent, you could have demanded a contract that started with the number 4 because you had all the leverage. Well, in order to do that, you have to have the client on board. It might be that Devers, from his position, he loves playing for Alex Cora. He's a happy person in general. And when you put that kind of number in front of a player, that's hard to say no to.
Yeah.
Like, not everybody is Carlos Correa, right? In terms of saying no to offers. Not everybody's Aaron Judge. I guess one of the cool things about watching Devers play is he's got that great smile. He seems like he has great energy. He just loves baseball. I've heard stories from the Red Sox staffers about how if there's somebody outside, like some kids of coaches outside playing catch or something, Devers is very, likely to be out there watching just because he loves the game so much. And so, as you say, he made it clear he wanted to stay, despite the fact that he probably could have got a lot more money if he played it out.
Buster, I told this story yesterday, and I think it's very relatable in this situation. We're never going to know the answer, but I'm going to run this by you anyways. My first radio job, there were 3 of us that were all the same age, all the same ability, and we were all part-time. And we all wanted to be full-time. And the first guy went to management and said, I want to be full-time. They said no, so he left. Then I went to management and said, I want to be full-time. They said no, so I left. And the third guy, the last guy remaining, they made him full-time instantly. And I didn't know if they made him full-time because he was the best of the 3 or if he was because the last one standing. I wonder what the case is with the Red Sox here. Of the 3 that the Red Sox had, Betts, Bogaerts, and Devers, is Devers the one they wanted, or is he just the last one left?
He's the last one left. You and I have talked about how their failures in the negotiations with Betts and Bogaerts created a situation where they had to sign Devers. And it all went in sequencing. If Betts happened to be younger than Devers, I bet you they would have been in this situation with him. Mm-hmm. And I mentioned the positional abilities of Devers, and that being a question. I've had folks with other teams say, look, if you're willing to invest $300 million in the player, why wasn't that contract given to Mookie Betts? Why was that, not a more aggressive offer made to him? Because Devers, is arguably one of the 3 or 4 best hitters in baseball, but in terms of being a great overall player, they're not close. Mookie Betts is a much better player than Devers because of his defensive ability. Buck Showalter, longtime manager, told me he's the best right fielder he thinks in the history of baseball. Wow. The great base running, the experience that he has. And I think that's why, the people are scratching their heads. In fact, I had an executive who really personally has a lot of regard for Chaim Bloom, but he says when you see what they're doing, you're having a hard time finding a consistent strand of thought to it in terms of the choices that they're making.
Buster Olney, ESPN MLB Insider, with us here on the Brady Farkas Show every Thursday on WDEV. All right, let's move to the bad news. The bad news is Trevor Story out for anywhere between most and all of this season. Now, Buster, Chaim Bloom said this is a new elbow issue, not the elbow issue you had reported on last year. But nonetheless, Trevor Story's elbow has been problematic for a while, and it reared its head this week.
Yeah, and look, I'm not his doctor, and I'm not a doctor, and I don't know anything about what's in his current medicals. All I can tell you is I had people, when he was a free agent, when Trevor hit free agency in the fall of 2021, I had people with teams say, I think he's going to need Tommy John surgery during the course of his contract. That it was inevitable because when they tracked his throwing, from an injury that he had in May of 2021 when he was with the Rockies, with a diminishment in velocity and the changes that he made with his throwing, other teams saw what they believed to be absolute red flags that indicated that, yes, he's going to blow out his elbow and he's going to need major surgery. So I wrote it and I reported it and I talked about it ahead of time. I talked to you about it ahead of time.
Yeah.
And so I don't know what it is, but they're in a terrible spot. Obviously, a lot of the major shortstops have come off the board. They are in this weird spot where, on one hand, they've given these deals to older players. Kenley Jansen 2 years, Justin Turner a 2-year deal. So they seem to be sort of trying to posture as if they're going to contend. But on the other hand, they have a lot of major holes: center field, shortstop. Questions about their bullpen. To get back to what the rival executive said to me about the lack of a common strain of thought, in his eyes, a common plan, I think they have to determine which way they're going to go. And I think if you're honest, in this moment, it looks like they're a long way away from contending in a really tough division.
Buster, I think as far as shortstop goes, I think there's a couple of interesting possibilities for them. I think the thing that I am partial to is calling up the Padres and trying to get Ha-Seong Kim to play shortstop for you. You could put Christian Arroyo at second and Kike Hernandez in center, but Tom Caron of Nesson said if you're going to call the Padres about Kim, why not also call them about Trent Grisham? And then you can have Kike at second, Kim at short, and Grisham in center. Do you like my lesser deal or TC's bigger deal as possibilities?
Well, I think you are trying to get as much as possible, but there are a couple of issues there. Is that it's clear from the Red Sox conversation with other people, the Red Sox are valuing their prospects differently than other teams are. So, if you're the Padres, you're targeting certain players, and I think generally speaking, what other teams are hearing from the Red Sox is they don't want to give up any of their prime guys. And if you're going to get a major league shortstop and a major league center fielder, you're going to have to give up somebody big. They also have competition. I had an executive predict to me yesterday with another team. He thinks that the Kim is going to wind up with the Marlins.
Okay.
In a flip for a starting pitcher. So you have, a Lopez, caliber starting pitcher that in theory the Padres could land. That's a price tag that the Red Sox may not be able to match. Unless you put a guy like Bello out there. And my sense is Red Sox are really look at him as being a frontline guy, and I don't know if a lot of other folks feel.
Buster, I saw some interesting projections yesterday on Masataka Yoshida, the Red Sox Japanese import for this year. They actually look pretty good. 19 home runs, one place, 20 home runs, another place, 295 average, one place, 305 average somewhere else. I'm curious. He was pegged to be this team's leadoff hitter. Does the Story injury, you think, change drastically the construction of the lineup and maybe have to push this unknown into a run-producing spot rather than a top-of-the-order spot?
Well, I think that my guess is that Alex Cora is going to want to see him in spring training and see how the pieces and parts all fit. I can tell you this. I talked to folks with other teams about him, and they think this guy's a guy who has a chance to be a good major league hitter. But they also believe that he's someone who almost certainly has to play DH in the bulk of his playing time.
Oh, wow.
They think he's going to be defensively challenged. Maybe playing left field in Fenway Park will help that. I will tell you, and I know you know this because it's been written by folks at other websites. There was real surprise over the Red Sox investment in Yoshida this winter. There was a lot of teams that were looking at him as being a guy who was worthy of a $20, $25 million deal and not what the Red Sox gave him.
I'll get you out of here on this, Buster. It's interesting. You mentioned seeing Yoshida in spring training. Well, Yoshida is going to be off to Team Japan for the World Baseball Classic, Alex Cora said, and the Red Sox are going to be out several players at the World Baseball Classic. Devers is going to be gone. Nick Pivetta is going to be gone. Kenley Jansen's going to be gone. Jarren Duran is going to be gone. There's someone else in there, too. Yoshida, especially, I think, is a pretty big deal to not have him for kind of the bulk of the spring, especially as Team Japan profiles to play pretty deep into the tournament.
I would agree with you. In fact, I had a manager say to me the other day, talking about a particular player, like, great, I don't have this guy around. Now, if you're Rafael Devers, you don't really care, right? I mean, if you're Alex Cora, you're not worried about whether or not Devers is going to be around. I would say this, someone like Jarren Duran, if I were his agent, I'd say, dude, stay in camp.
Yeah.
You got, this is a hugely important spring for you. For starting pitchers, Nick Pivetta, you're not really worried about that so much. The big thing is that he builds up his innings, but they're individual players who I personally think in some cases they're better off staying in their major league camp. Have the staff there have more opportunities to keep eyes on them and track them and maybe give them some thoughts about how to improve. Duran absolutely fits that category.
Yeah, Verdugo is the other one who will be gone for the Red Sox as well. Alex Cora said. Buster Olney, ESPN MLB Insider, with us every Thursday at this time. Buster, thank you as always. Good luck to your Vikings this weekend. It's Super Wild Card Weekend in the NFL.
It's the playoffs. And so because it's the Vikings, I thank you because we need all the help we can get.
Buster, thank you. We'll talk next week.
See you, Brad.
Yep, absolutely. Buster Olney, our ESPN MLB insider. Buster, the big Vikings fan. Now, Kike Hernandez also going to be gone for the Red Sox at the World Baseball Classic. So Buster's great as always. What we're going to do is we'll step aside. We will get the national news update. And then we will come back and break down some of what Buster had to say. I've got a couple of distinct takeaways from what you just heard there from Buster Olney. And I'll ask you, should Jarren Duran, who has a whole lot at stake this spring, should he really be leaving the Red Sox to go play in the World Baseball Classic? Buster doesn't seem to think so. What do you think? We'll talk about it next as we break down Buster on the Brady Farkas Show at WDEV AM and FM.
This is WDEV, Vermont's news station, owned and operated by the Radio Vermont Group. From the top of Sugarbush, 96.1 FM, WDEV Warren and Waitsfield, 96.5 W243 Barrie, 98.3 W252 CU Montpelier, along with our founding station, AM 550 WDEV Waterbury Montpelier, streaming at WDEVradio.com. 91 years of serving Vermont, the friendly pioneer, WDEV.
This is CBS News on the Hour, sponsored by Liberty Mutual Insurance.
I'm Monica Ricks in New York. The White House is defending the discovery of classified documents in President Biden's possession following a special counsel's appointment today. Press Secretary Karine Jean-Pierre.
We are confident that a thorough review will show that these documents were inadvertently misplaced, and the president and his lawyers acted promptly upon discovering of this mistake.
But Republicans are calling out the Justice Department. Here's CBS's Skylar Henry.
The Republicans say the DOJ treated former President Trump much harsher, raiding his Mar-a-Lago home to find classified material that the National Archives repeatedly requested he return. You watched them leak photos of sitting out files of President Trump? Where's the photos of President Biden's documents?
That's House Speaker Kevin McCarthy. The investigation is expected to start soon. New York Republican George Santos isn't budging. CBS's Scott McFarland tells us Santos won't resign despite more pressure from the GOP.
He's making clear he's here to stay. In an interview with a far-right media outlet, he says if other Republicans had the strength he had, they'd do better with media scrutiny, the types of which he's been getting over the past 6 days.
About 20 million Americans are now under severe weather threats in the South, where tornadoes are reportedly causing severe destruction. Alabama's getting the brunt of it. In California, a bit of a break between rounds of rain.
It is literally the calm before the next storm. With little or no rain, California officials are urging people to prepare. Monterey County Sheriff Tina Nieto.
State and local officials are preparing for continued flood stage activity, possibly through Sunday.
Reggie Williams is with the California Highway Patrol.
We need everyone to limit their travel during the next few days.
The next storm will begin dropping rain tomorrow. Steve Futterman, CBS News, Los Angeles.
Well, 2022 wasn't the hottest year on record, but it was close.
We're going to continue to see this trend as long as greenhouse gases are accumulating. Another way to think about this year and this time right now and the future is that this is one of the coolest years for the rest of our lives.
Sarah Panix, a government scientist, she says the hottest year ever is still 2016. More women are saying no to babies. CBS's Stacey Lynn.
The CDC says the number of births in the U.S. has continued to decline, with nearly half of American women under 45 opting not to have children. They say women are staying in school longer and choosing longer career paths. They also cite changing family values, financial concerns, and improved access to contraception.
Not to mention rising costs of living and student debt. This is CBS News.
Nobody should have to pay for one-size-fits-all insurance coverage. Liberty Mutual customizes your car and home insurance so you only pay for what you need. Liberty Mutual Insurance.
Attention Vermonters, the Push It, Pull It, or Tow It sale is back at Lamoille Valley Chevy. Here's Pat to tell you more. We would like to thank all of our customers and our entire team for helping Lamoille Valley Chevy get to our goal of 4,000 delivered in 2022. Being one of the highest volume Chevy dealers in Vermont means we have a ton of new trucks in stock. Our lot is now overstocked with more one-owner, low-mileage, late-model cars, trucks, and SUVs, and I have instructed my entire team that we need to sell them down. Through the end of January, anyone can push, pull, or tow any single individual trades at Lamoille Valley Chevy and get a $2,000 minimum trade allowance toward any new truck or SUV on our lot. And better yet, receive a $3,000 minimum trade allowance towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. Many of these Lamoille Valley Chevy pre-owned trucks and SUVs are certified pre-owned that come with a better than new 100,000-mile warranty on top of a guaranteed minimum trade allowance of $3,000. So get to the push it, pull it, or tow it sale happening right now at Lamoille Valley Chevy, just past Stowe and Morrisville in the beautiful town of Hyde Park, Vermont. And remember, at Lamoille Valley Chevy, we know price matters.
WDEV is sending a lucky winner to the Daytona 500 this February, and it could be you. Prize includes a 5-day, 4-night trip with round-trip airfare, hotel accommodations, $500 in spending money, and tickets to the Daytona 500. Sign up for your chance to win at the following locations.
Willie Store, Greensboro. Country Home Center, Center Road, Morrisville. Waterbury Service Center, Main Street in Waterbury. Pizza on Main, Main Street, Morrisville. And Cleveland Cedar, Route 15, Wolcott.
Tickets to the Daytona 500, 5-day, 4-night hotel accommodations, and $500 in cash. Sign up today. No purchase necessary. Contest rules and details available at WDEVradio.com. Sponsored in part by Milne Travel American Express. Your chance to be part of the show is on the text line at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show, right here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. Texter asks a popular question. Brady, why does the 96.1 signal keep dropping out? So, here, look, we were having a technical issue dating back like 2 weeks now. We are in the process of fully rectifying our FM signal. If you are having an issue with our FM signal, AM signal is perfect. That's AM 550 all around the state. Also online streaming at WDEVradio.com. So we are working on getting our transmitter fully operational. Right now it does kind of go in and out, but AM 550 is where you can catch us with no issues. So I want to thank Buster Olney of ESPN for stopping by, as he does every Thursday. The full interview with Buster available on our Brady Farkas Show podcast channel on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. We go up until 6:40 today. Then it's high school hoops. Brent Curtis is waiting courtside already for girls hoops between Spalding and Harwood. I want to break down some of what Buster had to say. We've got a couple things already clipped up from Buster's interview. Did a great job during the commercial break there. Buster said that other executives in Major League Baseball don't think the Red Sox have a clear plan.
You know, they are in this weird spot where on one hand, you know, they've given these deals to older players, Kenley Jansen 2 years, Justin Turner a 2-year deal. So they seem to be sort of trying to posture as if they're going to contend. But on the other hand, they have a lot of major holes, center field, shortstop, questions about their bullpen. To get back to what the rival executive said to me about the lack of a common strain of thought, in his eyes, a common plan, I think they have to determine which way they're going to go. And I think if you're honest, in this moment, it looks like they're a long way away from contending in a really tough division.
This is exactly what I told you yesterday. Chaim Bloom said yesterday at the Devers press conference that he hoped the Red Sox plan was becoming more clear. And I got to tell you, as I told you yesterday, I don't think the Red Sox plan is very clear to many people on the outside. I think just as Buster outlined, many people see what the Red Sox are doing as a collection of moves, and they're having a hard time trying to figure out how they all fit. Now, I believe that I have it figured out, and I'm not trying to just be smarter than the room here, but as somebody who follows this team every day very closely, I believe that I finally got it. But I don't believe it's easy for anyone else to follow. The average fan Heck, even some of the players and certainly rival executives and other national media members, people who aren't in the trenches with this team, I don't think have an easy time following it. To the outside, it does just look like a hodgepodge of moves. It's hard to easily see the common thread between all these moves. Again, I think I've got it, but most people don't. Heck, John Tomasi of NBC Sports Boston, who covers the team also, he also doesn't quite get it.
You have one legitimate franchise player now. You know, how many years has it been since the Red Sox were in that position where it's just one guy? And really, I talked to Tom Werner after the press conference and was asking him, what gives you the confidence? He's like, well, it's the farm system. And it's like, so that's the plan? Like, maybe the minor leaguers will be good someday? That is not a plan. And it certainly does not do anything for 2023.
All right, let me address Tomasi first before I reiterate to you what the plan is. To John Tomasi says, hoping the minor leaguers are good is not a plan. Well, yes, it is. You don't have to like it, but building up your farm system and using that farm system to your benefit, that is a plan. You do not have to like it. You do not have to agree with it. But to sit here and say, that's not a plan. Yes, it is a plan. Cultivating prospects and hoping they hit is exactly what many teams do. The Braves, they won the World Series in 2021. Freddie Freeman, it was a prospect that they hoped would hit, and he did. Ronald Acuna Jr., a prospect you hope would hit, and he did. Ozzie Albies, a prospect you hope would hit, and he did. Austin Riley, a prospect you hope would hit, and he did. Ian Anderson, Max Fried. That's the core of a World Series team for you. This year now they've got Michael Harris Jr., who won Rookie of the Year last year. The Atlanta Braves won a World Series, and they were largely a homegrown team. Yes, there were others, okay? You do have to spend money. You do have to trade some prospects, but developing your farm system and hoping that those guys pan out that is a plan. It is a plan that has worked. My Mariners get to the playoffs, right? Guess what their plan was? Cultivate prospects and hope they hit. Julio Rodriguez, Rookie of the Year, has hit. George Kirby, one of the top young pitchers in baseball, has hit. Logan Gilbert, the same. Cal Raleigh at catcher. Trade for J.P. Crawford. Trade for Ty France. Hope that those guys hit. Andres Munoz in their bullpen. This is exactly what the Mariners are doing currently. Yes, they have added outside the organization as well. It can't only be the farm system, but using the farm system as your next great core, that is very much a plan. The White Sox got to the playoffs 2 years in a row. Lucas Giolito, Michael Kopech, Yohan Moncada, Jose Abreu, Tim Anderson, Eloy Jimenez, Luis Robert. It's a homegrown core. It's a homegrown and developed core. Dylan Cease. It's exactly what teams all over baseball are doing. So yes to John Tomasi, that is a plan. But as I told you yesterday, this is the Red Sox plan in full. The Red Sox plan in full is long-term sustainability with short-term flexibility. You don't have to like it. But that is the plan, and it is a plan. Chaim Bloom wants to build up all of his long-term assets. Buster says, the Red Sox don't want to trade prospects. I wouldn't want to trade 6 years of Brian Bello for 2 years of Ha-Seong Kim either. I'm sorry. I don't even think that's prospect hoarding. I just think that's stupid. The Red Sox are not close to winning the World Series, so why would I give up 6 years for 2 years? Not happening. So the Red Sox want to build up their system. They want to build up Marcelo Meyer. They want to build up Brian Bello. They want to build up Tristan Casas. They've got a couple other young guys that you don't know as well. Rafaela down there, Nick York, Blaze Jordan. They've got guys that they're counting on. So, yes, Chaim Bloom wants to hold on to them. He wants them to all crest around the same time. That is part of the plan. He also is building up short-term flexibility. He wants major league players like Kenley Jansen, like Chris Martin, like Jolie Rodriguez, like Corey Kluber, like Justin Turner. He wants major league players that can make you competitive now. I mean, the Red Sox are trying to be competitive. I don't believe they have the depth that they're going to need to do it, but they are trying to be competitive. But they have all these guys on short-term deals. What does that allow? Well, if you're bad, those contracts are easy to get out of. They're easy to trade. That's one thing. If those players are great, they're also easy to trade if your team is just not great. And you've got the ability that their short-term contracts, they're not going to block any of your long-term assets when those guys are ready to crest. That's what the Red Sox are doing. They're trying to thread the needle again. It's hard to do. You don't have to like it, but that to me is the Red Sox plan. Executives don't get it. I believe that I get it. It took me a while. Trust me. It took me a long while to get it, but finally this offseason, it dawned on me. What else does Buster have to say here? Buster talked. So there was a very interesting story on The Athletic. It was Chad Jennings and Jen McCaffrey, two Red Sox beat writers. And they were talking about Rafael Devers signing a long-term deal in Boston and why he wanted to do it. And they had the nugget that Devers didn't want to hit free agency. That really surprised me. I asked Buster about Devers not wanting to hit free agency.
I just think that, there's so many players who are built differently. You and I talked about the possibility that, if you're his agent, you could have demanded a contract that started with a number 4 because you had all the leverage. Well, in order to do that, you have to have the client on board. It might be that Devers, from his position, he loves playing for Alex Cora. He's a happy person in general. And when you put that kind of number in front of a player, that's hard to say no to.
Yeah.
Like, not everybody is Carlos Correa.
Look, I totally get Buster's standpoint. That is a lot of money to put in front of somebody. And there's also a loyalty thing here where, look, the Red Sox found Rafael Devers and signed him at, 16 years old? You only know them. There's a comfort there. So it makes sense when you boil it down as to why Devers would not want to hit free agency. But I am still shocked to hear him say it. I really thought that once Devers got this close, that once players get this close, I just assumed that they were just kind of ready for it. And frankly, that they were kind of excited for it. I think initially a player doesn't want to hit free agency because they're like, this is my home. This is where I'm comfortable. These people found me, believed in me, loved me, etc. But kind of once you get closer, you're like, you know what? Okay, let's do it. Like, how many times has there been something in your life that you weren't excited for initially, but then as it got closer, you're like, you know what? Okay. Look, when I left Albany, I didn't want to leave. I didn't want to leave. But then as I was about to leave, and then as I got to Vermont the first time, I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm ready for this. I'm ready for this. I've never been in this position, but how many of you have been, about to go through a divorce and you don't want to get divorced? And then as it's about to get finalized, you're kind of like, you know what? I've got a different perspective. I'm excited to see what else is out there. That's kind of what I thought was going to happen with Devers, that you don't want to leave. But then as it gets closer and becomes more of a reality, you talk yourself into being all right with it. That's what I would have expected. I thought he was definitely going to be interested in getting a sampling of other teams' pitches and meeting other people and developing new relationships and hearing more about other teams' money. I'm surprised that Devers did not want to go to free agency. So that's why when this deal happened, I was largely shocked about it. Finally, let's get to this one because this is interesting as well. Alex Cora yesterday said a bunch of Red Sox players are going to leave spring training to go to the World Baseball Classic. Outfielder Jarren Duran is one of them. Buster doesn't sound like he thinks that's a good idea.
I would say this, someone like Jarren Duran, if I were his agent, I'd say, dude, stay in camp.
Yeah.
You got, this is a hugely important spring for you. For starting pitchers, Nick Pivetta, you're not really worried about that so much. The big thing is that he built up his innings, but they're individual players who I personally think in some cases they're better off staying in their major league camp. Have the staff there have more opportunities to keep eyes on them and track them and maybe give them some thoughts about how to improve. Duran absolutely fits that category.
802-585-3026. Buster says Jarren Duran should not go to the World Baseball Classic. What do you think? I'll be honest with you. This one for me is really hard. Buster is right. Flat out, he is right. The smart thing for Jarren Duran to do is to stay in camp. He needs to impress Chaim Bloom and Alex Cora. That's who he needs to impress. He doesn't need to impress anybody else. He needs to impress those two people. Jarren Duran is fighting for his Red Sox life. He's fighting for his Red Sox opportunity. And by and large, by extension, he's really fighting for his major league opportunity. His major league career is potentially at stake. And that's not hyperbole. He's no longer a young, flashy prospect. If he can't impress this Red Sox team and this Red Sox staff, then he might not be able to impress anybody. He is fighting for his major league career. He's got the potential chance to be this team's starting center fielder. And with Kike Hernandez and Alex Verdugo also gone for the WBC, Jarren Duran could get a ton of reps, a ton of eyeballs, and have a ton of opportunities to turn the heads of the people he needs to turn the heads of, Chaim Bloom, Alex Cora. The smart thing for Jarren Duran to do is to stay with the Red Sox. Get the at-bats under their tutelage. Shag fly balls under their tutelage. Show them your development as an outfielder. Show them your development as an offensive player. And by the way, play in every spring training game because Verdugo and Kike are not there. The smart thing to do is to not play in the World Baseball Classic. But that said, I cannot fault a guy for wanting to represent his country or the country of his family. I cannot do that. I'm sure there is a sports radio host who can. I can't. If Duran feels that honoring his own Mexican heritage is important to him and he's willing to risk his own Red Sox career for it, I can't judge him for it. It is not the smart thing to do. But that said, it is his life. It is his career. If he is okay with the consequences of leaving to play for Team Mexico, then he's okay with it, and I don't think I can judge him for that. We see all the time guys put themselves at risk to play internationally. Sometimes that's the risk of an injury, and sometimes that's the risk of your own roster spot. And if that's a risk you're willing to take, I don't think I can knock it. Buster's right. Duran should stay in camp. He's got a chance to really impress, and he needs to take that chance. But if losing his Red Sox standing is worth representing Mexico, then I can't tell him otherwise. Athletes say all the time, there's nothing like representing your country. There's nothing like representing your heritage. If that's what he wants to do, then that's what he wants to do. And I will not knock him. Look, it's not smart for Luka Doncic to play for Slovenia in the European Championships, right? He's got a bunch of money that he's going to be owed soon. He can't get injured. We don't want him to get injured, but he does it anyways. Why? It's worth it. Paul George tore apart his leg playing for Team USA. He took a huge risk, and he cost himself, but it was worth it to him. I remember years ago when I was in New York, the first year in this business, the Knicks did not want Kristaps Porzingis to represent Latvia. Who are they to tell him he can't represent Latvia? So just because it would be smart for Jarren Duran to stay with the Red Sox does not mean that we can judge him for it, I don't think. 802-585-3026. Your thoughts on that. What should Duran do? Do we have a right to tell Duran what to do? All right. I want to transition here. We got a high school basketball game coming up here in about 20 minutes as Brent Curtis is going to be on the call of Harwood and Spalding girls. I want to stick with the high school scene for a minute. You undoubtedly, because you listened to WDEV, heard this story earlier today. Rutland High School is choosing to go mascotless and will just be known as Rutland moving forward, and they will have imagery pending. right? So we had this story in the morning, the midday, and the afternoon news service. But after years of controversy about the Raiders nickname and the logo and being called the Ravens, etc., after years of that controversy, we have a resolution. Per the story from Channel 3, the school board has decided to change the school mascot name to Rutland, but the imagery is still pending. First off, as that's written, it makes absolutely zero sense. I just have to say that. We love Channel 3. As that's written, it makes zero sense. The school mascot name is Rutland. So are they officially the Rutland High School Rutland? Is that it? Or they just want to go as Rutland High School? Because when you tell me the school mascot's name is being changed to Rutland, it sounds like you're being called the Rutland High School Rutland. That makes absolutely zero sense to me. And I want to make clear, I have absolutely no dog in this fight, but there has to be a better answer than the Rutland High School Rutland, because that's laughable. I mean, what are we even doing here? You're telling me you couldn't come up with a better answer than the Rutland High School Rutland if that's really what this is? There's a lot of different ways this has gone, and I would have been fine with all of them. If you wanted to keep the Raiders name, but change the logo to the traditional Raiders logo like you see in Vegas, where it's a pirate type, I would have been fine with that. Okay? I would have been fine with that. If you want to keep the Raiders name, but make it the Pirate Raiders logo, then do that. I'd have been fine with that. If the Raiders name has too much history and too much hurt behind, and that's why they feel in that community, then I'll respect that too. But then there should have just been a vote that should have just been stuck with. I mean, my goodness, if they, people in the town didn't like being called the Ravens or whatever, well, I got news for you. If the Washington football franchise can give up all its years as Redskins and all that history and go to the Commanders, then so can you, right? Let's just call a spade a spade. If the North Dakota Fighting Sioux can give up all that history and go to something else, then so can you. The community is that bent out of shape that they can't use the Raiders logo. Look, if the school and everybody voted for the Ravens, then just keep it the Ravens. If you want to be called the Tiddlywinks, I don't care. But once it got decided, it should have just stayed decided. The Rutland High School Rutland and this back and forth, this is nonsense. I mean, my goodness. And I'll say this. If you want to just call yourself Rutland High School and not have any mascot or any moniker, I'd have been okay with that too. The Washington football team was kind of cool. Right? When you're the only one that has it, it's kind of cool. Who are we playing? Another Rutland High School basketball team. Walk around in sweatshirts. Rutland High School basketball. Okay? Rutland High School football team. Rutland High School field hockey. Rutland High School baseball. I'd have been okay with that. If you're the only team in the state going by just Rutland High School and say, yeah, we're the Rutland High School basketball team, we're the Rutland High School baseball team, Rutland High School softball, I'd have been fine with that too. But if you're really the Rutland High School Rutland, and then you're going to put out some mascot that's God knows what, that to me is just laughable. Like, that to me is just laughable. Okay? I'm sensitive to these issues. My high school had Native American name and imagery. My school kept the name and changed the logo. We were the Plainsmen as a name and a stallion as a mascot, right? When we changed it, it became a stallion, and it stuck that way now for more than a decade. It's been 15 years since I was in high school. I went through that vote as a junior in high school, and 15 years, 16 years later, they're having no problems with keeping their original name but having a different logo. Okay, fine. If Rutland wanted to do that, they could have. If Rutland wanted to change the name and logo entirely, they could have. But Rutland High School Rutland, that to me makes zero sense. Makes absolutely zero sense. Texter says, I am respectful and sensitive, but what in the hell is happening to our country? It's turning into an eggshell. That's your opinion, right? Look, I am not in a marginalized group. I'm well aware of that. And I'm lucky I've never had to deal with what marginalized communities have. So if marginalized communities tell me that they have a problem with something, I will listen. If non-marginalized people are telling me that I should have a problem with something, then I have a little harder time listening. But so I'm sensitive to these issues. If there are people who are affected and offended by the Raiders moniker in that community, then get rid of it. But keep it what it was. Keep it as the Ravens. People voted on that. Why the hell do we do the Rutland High School Rutland? Sounds ridiculous. If they want to keep the name and change the logo, I'd have been fine with that too. But that's just me. I hope that this is just a poorly written story rather than the actual story, because the way it is written is exactly as I told you from Channel 3. The school board has decided to change the school mascot name to Rutland, but the imagery is still pending. The Rutland High School Rutland. I'm not cool with that. I'm not cool with that. It's the Brady Farkas Show here on WDEV, AM and FM, and WDEVradio.com. High school basketball comes up about 15 minutes from now. When we come back, Dan Orlovsky, former NFL quarterback, had something very interesting to say about what the Patriots need in 2023. And I completely agree with him. I'll tell you what that is next, right here on DEV.
Don't have time to stop by a bank branch? At Union Bank, it takes less than 5 minutes to open an account online. Union Bank makes opening an account online easy, and they offer several personal checking and savings account options to choose from. Visit uvlocal.com. Union Bank, a Vermont institution for over 130 years, rated best small bank in Vermont by Newsweek, and the top performing publicly traded community bank in New England by the American Bankers Association. Union Bank, stay local, go far. Member FDIC.
It's 1, 2, 3 to start 2023 at Lamoille Valley Ford. Here's Rick the Kid.
We want to thank all our customers and friends for helping us reach our goal in the countdown to 4,000 vehicles sold last year, continuing our run as Vermont's highest volume Ford dealer. Now, kick off the new year. It's as simple as 1, 2, 3 in January 23 at Lamoille Valley Ford. On any in-stock new Ford Escape, Edge, or Explorer, you can take $1,000 off MSRP. And Lamoille Valley Ford will double that discount to $2,000 on any new F-150 in stock. Plus, during January, Lamoille Valley Ford will discount any pre-owned vehicle on our lot, including our huge selection of certified pre-owned cars, trucks, and SUVs, $3,000. At Lamoille Valley Ford, we have by far the largest inventory of new Fords in Vermont, along with a huge selection of pre-owned vehicles. And we have instructed our entire team to make deals and earn your business.
Woo! You heard, Rick. You don't have to settle for an ugly vehicle, and you definitely don't need to pay more than you should. So drive Route 14, 50, or 60 to Hardwick, where it's as simple as 1, 2, 3 to start 2023 at Lamoille Valley Ford.
New England Municipal Resource Center, NEMRIC, proudly supporting local government, local businesses, and WDEV. WDEV also serves the Northeast Kingdom at 101.9 W270BR Island Pond.
Attention Vermonters, the Push It, Pull It, or Tow It sale is back at Lamoille Valley Chevy. Here's Pat to tell you more. We would like to thank all of our customers and our entire team for helping Lamoille Valley Chevy get to our goal of 4,000 delivered in 2022. Being one of the highest volume Chevy dealers in Vermont means we have a ton of new trucks in stock. Our lot is now overstocked with more one-owner, low-mileage, late-model cars, trucks, and SUVs, and I have instructed my entire team that we need to sell them down. Through the end of January, anyone can push, pull, or tow any single trade to Lamoille Valley Chevy and get a $2,000 minimum trade allowance toward any new truck or SUV on our lot. And better yet, receive a $3,000 minimum trade allowance towards any pre-owned vehicle in stock. Many of these Lamoille Valley Chevy pre-owned trucks and SUVs are certified pre-owned that come with a better than new 100,000-mile warranty on top of a guaranteed minimum trade allowance of $3,000. So get to the Push It, Pull It, or Tow It sale happening right now at Lamoille Valley Chevy, just past Stowe and Morrisville in the beautiful town of Hyde Park, Vermont. And remember, at Lamoille Valley Chevy, we know price matters.
Make your opinion heard by texting onto the Brady Farkas Show at 802-585-3026.
Now it's back to the Brady Farkas Show on WDEV AM, FM, and WDEVradio.com.
Welcome back in, Brady Farkas Show right here on DEV. Show brought to you in part by Pro Driver Training. That's Pro Driver Training, Vermont's premier truck driver training school, online at prodrivercdl.com. I really, really like and agree with what Dan Orlovsky of ESPN had to say the other day about the New England Patriots. He was talking about Mac Jones. He was talking about the Pats looking ahead into the offseason towards 2023. I love this.
I want to make a very clear point of the difference between Mac Jones in my eyes last year to this year. It has to do with an exclamation point and a question mark. Okay. Last year, Mac understood the why with an exclamation point. Why are we running? I know why we're running this play, because this is how we want to attack this person or this defense, or we're really good at this. This year, he was asking why with a question mark. Why are we calling this play? Like, why are we doing it this way? And the reality is, if they want to get Mac back to playing to the way that I think he can, which is a very good quarterback in the NFL, that needs to be the foundation of what New England's offense is with Mac Jones.
I think that is really, really smart. When we think about what Mac needs this offseason, we think about what the Pats need, I do think they need to understand the why. In the past, I think the why was simply because that's what Tom wants, or that's just what Bill does and Bill wins a lot, so we just have to go along with it. But the Patriots have changed foundationally over the last few years. Tom Brady isn't here, so it's not just, oh, that's what Tom wants. And Belichick hasn't won within the last 4 years. So I don't think that this group of players should have to just rely on the because I said so way of doing business anymore. Listen, we hear this all the time. It's one of the biggest things that we talk about as fans and we talk about as media people, and it's the idea of buy-in. We ask players all the time to buy in. We want them to buy in. We want them to believe. But you shouldn't have to just buy in blindly. As an employee, I do want to know, why are we doing this as a company? Why is our company making that decision? Is that really the best way of doing things? Why will this lead me to personal success here? I think that's personal. I think that's perfectly fair. Look, you can't be annoying. You can't be an employee who questions absolutely everything. But I get what Orlovsky is saying. Players deserve to know what is happening, and players deserve to know why things are being done a certain way. They absolutely deserve that. And I think that that's a more new development. I think today's player is different than a player of the past, but there's so much more out there about the game now. Players are so much smarter about the game, and players have so many more tools at their disposal that they can see things and understand things in a different way, and I think they want to know. And I think they should want to know. There's more analytics. There's more research. There's more social media sharing things. Players are smarter about the game than they've ever been. And if that is the case, then they're naturally going to question more about the game than they ever have. Mac Jones, the rest of the team, they do deserve to know the why. Hey, we are... I'm just making examples. Hey, we're switching to a 4-3 this year from a 3-4. Why? Well, we think it's going to be better for us against the run game. Okay. Hey, we're going to blitz this quarterback more. Why? Because his numbers against the blitz are worse than the NFL. Okay. Hey, we're going to play more 2 wide receiver sets. Why? Because we want to add 2 tight ends in there, which will help our blocking up front. Okay, I think it's fair to ask those questions. Why are we doing things this way? I think players have a right. And now, Mac Jones is going to be in his 3rd year. To me, there is some ownership that comes with that. He doesn't get to run the show. He doesn't get to make all the calls. I fully understand that. But as a 3rd-year quarterback, there's a sense of ownership that you have. Like, look, I get the system. I get the personnel. I understand the game. I get the way defense is now. Now, I'm not just flying blind on everything. I can understand things and I can have input on it. And I think that is absolutely fair. I think it's absolutely fair. Texter goes back to the Rutland story. Says, Brady, instead of walking on hot coals, we're now switching to walking on eggshells. Please don't take it the wrong way all the time. I don't know. I didn't take it. Okay, so the texter says, Instead, okay, we used to walk on hot coals with a backbone. Now we're walking on eggshells. Okay, so you're saying that people are softer now. That's your opinion. That's fine. You can have that opinion. But I'm telling you, my opinion is that I just think how they handled the naming thing was wrong. It doesn't bother me that they want to change it. But the Rutland High School Rutland is laughable and embarrassing. A couple things here before we get out of here. There's much more on the Patriots. We're going to get to them, of course, tomorrow with Phil Perry, our final talk with Phil for the season. We're also going to get into Wild Card Weekend, or Super Wild Card Weekend, as they call it, obnoxiously kind of. We'll do that tomorrow. More on the Patriots, more on some of their coaching stuff. I thought the stuff by Orlovsky again was great. Celtics are playing tonight against the Nets. This was supposed to be a huge game. The Nets are right on the tails of the Celtics in the Eastern Conference standings, but Kevin Durant's out for a month with that knee sprain. Jaylen Brown's going to be out today as well with what I believe is being called a left adductor strain. So that's an ab muscle, essentially. Adductors can be serious. I don't know that this one is. The word that he's not playing just came down. So no Durant and no Brown, but there is Kyrie and there is Jason Tatum. So we'll see what happens. Celtics are on the second night of a back-to-back, so should be a good game. It's in Brooklyn. It's a 7:30 start time, so we will certainly monitor that and probably have some for you tomorrow as well. UVM just blasted yesterday by UMass Lowell, and it's an embarrassing loss because we're not used to seeing UVM lose 2 in a row. We're not used to seeing UVM lose 2 league games, period. We're not used to seeing UVM lose 2 league games in a row. We're not used to seeing them get beat by 15, all of which happened yesterday. So it's jarring and it's embarrassing, but at the same time, it's kind of predictable, isn't it? Finn Sullivan, your starting point guard, he's out. TJ Hurley, your top reserve, arguably, he's out. You were playing in this game very shorthanded. UVM got beat by 15. When you are not as good as you've been and you are shorthanded, you lose by 15 on the road. It's disappointing that UVM gave up 80 points. That's probably the thing that gets me the most. But new night, same story. UVM's issues that have been issues remain issues. You look at the final box score and what happened. UVM got out-rebounded by 14. Hard to win games that way. UVM shot 4 of 16 from 3. Hard to win games that way. UVM missed 10 free throws. Hard to win games that way. 13 of 23 at the line. I mean, the things that UVM hasn't done well all year, they didn't do well yesterday. End of story. End of game. Game over. That's just how it's done. Tough loss. Now they're going to come home next Thursday. They're going to have a week off to get healthy. I think that's going to be very important. But again, also, UVM, their stars not playing like stars. Aaron Deloney had 11 last night. He needs to be at 14. And without Sullivan, he needs to be at 17, 18. Dylan Penn had 8. Again, single-digit scoring output. That's tough. It's really tough. The Cats are better than they showed yesterday. When they are healthy, they will be better. Hopefully next Thursday, they will be healthier as they take on an improving Maine team. This is not going to be easy. This is not going to be an easy season for UVM now in the league. That's very clear. Word on Jaylen Brown is that he could be out a week or so with that adductor injury. So that's tough. That's Joe Mazzulla. Oh, it's right adductor tightness, not left. Excuse me. But Mazzulla says he could be out a week or so. Celtics taking on the Nets. That's coming up tonight. High school basketball is next. Spalding and Harwood on the girls' side. Brenton Curtis is standing by. The Brady Farkas Show podcast channel on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and WDEVradio.com. I'll see you tomorrow.
I was in the squad room when I got the call.
Listen, there's something going on over at the Liz Competent Flooring.
I figured I'd better investigate. What I found were suspiciously low prices on all kinds of carpet and flooring. 50% off all